Okay, so for this tutorial, we are going to be using git bash to make a local git, and then we're going to also be making a repository on GitHub and then linking the two. I'm also going to be showing you some basic commands, and after that, I'm going to be showing you some more advanced commands, and you might want to use those if you have some problems. So let's start. Right, your starting point is generally here, and we want to get to the desktop, so let's just do cd desktop. And I'm going to be using desktop primarily because it is easier for you to see the files and navigate to them. So we're going to make a directory, and then we're going to name it tutorial, and you'll see it pop up here, right? And that's kind of handy. So now I'm going to go inside of it, so I'm going to do cd tutorial, and now we are inside of it, and it's blank because it's new, right? So we're going to be putting a local git inside of it, and the command for this is git init, and this just puts a git inside of a local git that's new inside of tutorial. So now that we have it, you'll notice that there's a little tag here that says master, and also there's a hidden file that if we use ls with the all flag will say .git instead of just nothing. So now that we know that it's actual git, we should put some basic files in here for examples, right? So let's say we have test.txt, and let's just test.txt. Okay, now we have a file. Let's just put a little bit of stuff in there, right? So we're going to say this is a test. Save that and close it. And then we are going to just add it and commit it, right? So we're going to use the command git add and then period, right? And what this is saying is we are going to use a git command, and the command is add, and it's going to connect this folder to the git, right? Because normally if you just edit a bunch of things in the folder, even though it has the master tag on it or a tag on it here, it is never going to update it until you use git add. So now that it's been connected, we can see that using git status, right? And if you, let's say, have something that's unedited, let me just make one of those. Git bad text.txt, and then we do git status on this. It'll say this file is untracked. We have not added it, and it does not know it exists. So now let's say we do this, right? Let's just continue on like this is how it is. We are going to use git commit, and then use the m flag, which means message. Otherwise you'll end up having to use vim, which is pretty tricky for if you don't know how. And we're going to say just a random character, right? So 0, and that's going to be the 0th update, the first one, right? And we're going to do that. And now it's been started. So our git is effectively just a fully functional local git. So now we want to link this to GitHub using a to a GitHub repository. And a repository is it's like a server that holds all your Git information, right? So we're going to be making a new one of those, and if you don't have a GitHub account, you should make that. And if you don't know how to get to this page here with the new button, you should just click on this little icon in the top left, right? And we're just going to open a new one, and let's just name this thing tutorial, and then we're going to say this is a tutorial. and then it'll give you a nice little list of the commands you need. And this is actually just starting a local Git and then linking it right here. And since we've already done these first 3 steps, let's just do the other 2, right? So what we're going to be doing is git, so this is a git command, and we're going to be using the remote, and we're adding a remote, which is the website here, GitHub, and this remote has the, not really sure what origin is. And then we are going to be adding the remote of this URL, right? So let's just paste that, and then it should link when we hit enter. So a handy command you could use is git remote, and it says origin. That means that it has a remote. If you did that before, it wouldn't work. So now we are going to use git push, and then we're going to use the U flag, which means upstream, which is how this tag master is not familiar to the website. And because we are adding it from scratch, right, we need to be using the U flag, and then we need to type origin and master, right, because it's the master tag right here. So let's hit enter on that, and it's going to be saying we're making a new tag called master. Okay, so it's been updated on here, and you need a refresh for it to actually be visible, the change. So now that it's been updated, you'll find this right here, and it'll have our commit message, which was a 0, and then it'll have our test.txt here, right? So this is a test, and you'll also notice, right, it only has test.txt. When we list here, there's also bad text.txt, but since I never used git add, it never tracked it, and it never sent it up, right? So that's one of the reasons why you should make sure that you add carefully, I guess, and use git status if you're not very familiar with Git. So another thing you might want to do is, let's say bad text is actually a bad text, right? So let's go in here, let's make a little thought, right? So we're going to say this will crash your computer, right? And let's save that, close it. And now we are going to, now we really do not want to add bad text.txt. But the easiest general way of adding would be to use git add period, right? Because now it's just, if you had like 100 files and only one of them was bad, then that would be pretty bad, like pretty wasteful. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to ignore bad text when we use git add and it's included in that general area, right? And the way we do this is we create a file that has the names of everything we want to ignore. And that file has to have a very specific name of period git ignore, right? So let's make that period git ignore, right? And this is a hidden file, and it's hidden because it starts with a period, because from what I've seen, just about everything that starts with a period is hidden, right? So on a normal list, it is not visible. And we're just going to go into the File Explorer and edit this with Notepad. And then we are going to put the text we want to ignore, right? So we want to ignore bad text dot txt. And now let's try that, right? and just making sure that git ignore has badtext.txt and I saved everything correctly. Let's just do git ignore, right? So we're going to use the cat function on it, and it says badtext.txt. Okay, so that's good. Right, now we're going to upload one more time, right? So let's do git add period, which should include bad text, but now that it has been added to the ignore list, it will not be. And then we are going to use, let's just do git status, and you'll notice it doesn't even say it didn't even say it added bad text at all here, and it didn't say it's untracked either. I never knew that. So let's do git commit with the flag m, and since last time we used 0, let's use 1 here. And now we are going to be adding now we are going to be using git push. And you'll notice that last time we had to use this u, right? But this time it's not necessary anymore because it already knows master is where we are working, right? And it'll say branch master. And that's what this is really describing. It's saying which branch you're on, which I'll get into further detail on later. So we're going to use git push. And now that we have that, we are going to refresh the page. And the only thing we should see here is an additional git ignore with the name badtext.txt on here, right? Now, let's say that we were not that clever to use it in the first place, right? So let's just use rm on .gitignore. Right? And this is basically the end of all the basic commands. I'm only going to be describing the more advanced stuff from here on out. So yeah, so we accidentally sent bad text up, and the guy who took it from us crashed his computer. That's no good, right? So what we got to do is we got to use git. So let's just make this scenario real, right? So now when we do ls.a, git ignore is not there. We're going to use git add all, I put a comma instead of a period, git add all, and then we are going to be using git status, and it added bad text. Okay, now we're going to use git commit -m, and then we're going to be saying 2, yeah, and then we're going to be using git push. Okay, it's done. And you can actually see when it has that little arrow master to master, or it should say the tag, which isn't always master. And it'll say badtext.txt, and this is terrible, right? Because now whenever we open this, this will crash your computer. So what we want to do is we want to remove it, right? And I'm going to fumble around here a little bit intentionally, right? So I'm going to use git rm, right? And now let's say we use this and we're like, oh god, we want to remove bad text. Okay, so we're going to use git rm badtext.txt, right? And what git rm is supposed to do is it's supposed to remove it from here, right? So when we add and commit and push, it'll be gone, right? But the problem is now it's also gone from my local Git, and not only the repository. So, oh god, we have no way of getting back to how it was, right? But there's a way to refresh to what the repository has, right? And the way you would do this is you use the command git reset hard, right? And this will hard reset what you had to the last thing that you pulled from the repository. So now it should have bad text because that was the last thing that was given from the repository, right? And you see, this is one of the really handy parts about Git, is that you can go back and fix a mistake pretty easily on it, right? So now let's do this correctly. Instead of using git rm, we're going to be using git rm, and then we're going to be putting the tag cats. Right? And what this is saying is only do it to the server side, don't do it on our side, right? And now that we use this, we are going to use it on bad text because, as you can see, it's back and we don't want it. So we're going to use git rm cats bad text, right? And then we'll do that. Oops, I didn't type it out entirely. Oh, I misspelled it too. There we are. Okay, so it is still here, but it is not going to be sent to the server. It's going to remove it from the server. And let me just git ignore because I deleted that, and the hard reset, I don't believe, gave it back because I pushed it without it anymore. So let's just make that again. And I'm going to just, yeah. And with this, upon git status, and then git add, and I'm only using these statuses so often so that you can really understand what's happening, because otherwise it's a little hard to keep track. And then I'm going to use git push. Oh, oops, I never committed, my bad. Git commit, and now let's use the m flag, and we are going to name it 3. And now we are going to git push, and now it should be done, right? Git ignore test.txt, while also on our side we have bad text.txt. So we got git ignore bad text and test.txt on our side, right? And this is really good. Okay, so I think that's enough for this. The next one I'm going to be talking about branches, and after that I'm going to be talking about merging, I think.